Hey family, welcome to How Love Works, where we talk about the principles for lasting love. Well family, I know it's been a while since I've had an opportunity to speak with you, but I've been experiencing some issues. So with those issues, I haven't had the opportunity to take the time necessary to speak with you about the issues concerning how love actually works. Today though, going forward, what I want to do today is I want to talk about an issue that is a very pressing issue in our community. In the African American community, we have a epidemic going on among African Americans in this nation, and the epidemic is obesity and overweight issues and the chronic diseases that follow as a result. So what I want to do is I want to deal with the issue at hand and give another perspective. I want to talk to you about why is it that black women are fat? Why is it that black women are fat? It doesn't sound good coming off of the tongue like that. There's actually only two reasons why black women are as large as they have gotten. One of them has to do with, as I always say, is ignorance, something they don't know. And number two, it has to do with indulgence, something that they are always doing. Now, I will give you a little background. I grew up, of course, in the 60s and the 70s, and so I am not really that familiar with a lot of heavy black women. Growing up, I didn't really see a lot of that. It's just been in the last 20 or so years we have been seeing an escalation in the number of overweight and even now obese female population, African American population. The statistics, according to the CDC, is that the black female population, 80% of them are overweight and or obese. The problem with it is that with being overweight and obese, there are a lot of metabolic issues that follow that particular chronic disease, if you will. The problem I have with it is that what we're doing now is that something like obesity is in such high numbers in our community. Now it's gotten to the point where many African American women have just now rationalized the sizes of most of the women you see in our community. It's sad to say that the average black woman is now overweight. And so now that's the norm. And so most black women, or many black women, they choose not to do anything about their weight. Now, I'm not sitting here making a statement that black women don't want to do anything about their weight. I just don't think they're willing to do what they can do for a number of good reasons. One of them is that the yo-yo dieting thing hasn't really been working for them. And the second thing is that it's very difficult for them considering the environment that we live in today. So it's been my contention that I think what I need to do is shed a little light on this thing. The bottom line is one of the biggest reasons why you see so much overweight issues in our community is primarily because of the first issue of ignorance. What you need to understand, ladies, is this. The reason so many black women are overweight is because, number one, it's not a calories in and calories out issue. It's not, well, if I eat so many calories, I'm going to be able to stabilize my weight. I'm going to be able to maintain my weight. It has nothing to do with calories. Nothing at all. Weight that we're experiencing in our community is primarily due to three major hormones. One is melatonin, the second is cortisol, and the last one is insulin. All three of those hormones, neurotransmitters if you will, are responsible for the evil of caloric I guess you say overabundance in the African American community, especially in the black community. It's not, I don't know if you see the connection, but I see it. I don't, and let me say this before I make the connection so that you understand that I'm not trying to say that it's evil or it's a bad thing. I'm just saying this is maybe one of the unintended consequences. In the African American community, there is a large number of African American females that are in the workforce right now. I don't think that's an issue, to be honest. My own wife works. My daughters work. So it's not an issue for me. But what is an issue that needs to be understood is that when you go to work outside your own home, there is a lot of stress involved going in and out of these jobs. Because when you're on the job, everyone is a man. And everyone is expected to behave like a man. And so when you get on these jobs, a lot of women are dealing with an enormous amount of stress. And that stress is working itself out in a multiplicity of ways. And so one of the biggest things that you're seeing is that the stress is causing the hormone cortisol to run rampant through our community. You can see it in the waistline, you can see it in the hips and the thighs. A lot of black women have a lot of their weight in that area. That's typical of cortisol, where you're having a dominant, where you're dominant in that area. Another problem, and again, that's tied to just working, everyday working in the workforce. The stress of going to work 9 to 5. Now, another problem is, that, especially with the younger crowd, after 1985, these women in the 30s and now even younger women, a lot of women, they're eating processed sugar. That's their main thing. Everything is sugar. I don't mean candy bars. I'm talking about starches. I'm talking about processed food. Anything in a package that's not real is processed. And so if you're eating an enormous amount of processed food, the next logical, I guess you say, fat bandit would be insulin. Because insulin, as well as cortisol, is the fat storing hormones. And so if you're eating foods that are full of starch, full of sugar, then, and sandwiches all the time, bread, all this stuff like that, all that stuff turns into sugar. And so if you eat enormous amounts of it, like most of us do, and especially if you're on the job, like many women are, a lot of women eat because food plays an important role on our mood. Because remember, because of those hormones like the big ones I haven't even mentioned, that really plays a big part on our mood, which is dopamine and serotonin. So if you're eating all of this food, and most of our serotonin, 95% of it, is found in our gut. So if you're eating all of this bad food, it's going to play havoc in that arena, and it's going to have some problems. Okay, so you got a lot of women who are eating just to deal with the stress on the job, but they're eating certain foods that are full of nothing but sugar, and unfortunately, when you get that much sugar in the body, you start running into all kinds of problems. Sadly, you can get funguses in the body. You can start running into candida, and that thing there, that's just a a situation where the body's just constantly seeking sugar. You're getting these strong sugar cravings. And so when you have that situation occurring in your body, then it's almost impossible for you to keep your weight intact. So these again are some of the problems. They're all tied to just the way, society has decided to go. So when you have the cortisol and you have the insulin, fat storing, okay, now we have the last one, which is melatonin. Melatonin is a big issue as well because a lot of women aren't getting 8 hours of sleep. They're staying up all night watching movies. They're hanging out with the young boys. They're doing things in the clubs. They're not getting their 8 hours of sleep. If you're not getting your 8 hours of sleep, then the body doesn't have the time to break down all of the waste matter that you've accumulated during the course of the day. And what doesn't get broken down gets stored. So that again is a way of storing fat. We got the same problem again. There's the big three. And the last one I didn't even mention, which is a big one in the African American community because the foods we eat are so bad, is estrogen dominance. That's another problem. A lot of black women eat a lot of food with a lot of soy, a lot of estrogen in it, and all that does is kind of mimic the body. The body mimics being pregnant, and when your estrogen levels are greater than your progesterone levels, then you start having hormone dysfunctions, and that doesn't even go into a lot of black women are on a hormone therapy, like a lot of them are on the pill, and so that's a lot of estrogen. When you're on the pill, you're taking a lot of estrogen. And so all of this combined is causing what I would say a tsunami effect on black women. And it's just, they don't know what to do and they don't know how to change the situation. Now, that's just the ignorant side. I just dealt with that. Now, a lot of women, they indulge themselves, as I said earlier, in the bad foods and not really recognizing that they have to eat natural foods. They just have to eat natural foods, vegetables, fruits, nuts, water. A lot of black women get their calories through drinking it. You know what I mean? In other words, a lot of their sugar. They're getting a lot of their processed sugar from sodas and juices and fruit drinks and Kool-Aid, which is a big one in our community. That's where they're getting all these calories from, and they don't know that they have to basically go back to the fundamentals. You can only eat vegetables and fruits and just meat. That's it. You can't have all this extra stuff. And then you have to know when and how to eat. If you don't know when and how to eat, you're just going to have all kinds of problems. And when you look on YouTube and you look on all the various channels that are out there, everybody's got a different diet. There's the Zone diet, there's the South Beach diet, there's the ketogenic diet, there's the egg diet, there's the water diet, there's the grapefruit diet, there's the apple diet, there's the God diet. There's a million diets out there. So it's obvious that a lot of black women are going to be confused. But it's not really that difficult from the standpoint of what you need to do. It's not really that difficult. I have been helping individuals, especially women and men, in this area for a long time. And I've been able to maintain my own weight for several years, and I've been doing the same thing for many people in my church. And I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just telling you what I do. Part of what I do to try to help people to heal that issue, because obesity is, to me, a chronic illness. And if you want to look at it from the standpoint that, this is just who I am, this is my truth, you can do that. That's not my issue. I'm not going to judge you. But understand, you can say what you want, and you can act like you good with it and everything, but see, the body don't lie. You can tell me anything, but the body don't lie. Okay? You probably have high blood pressure. You have cholesterol issues. right? You have problems with your joints. You're having a problem with gas and constipation. You're having gut-related issues. You're having female hormone problems. All kinds of issues related to this metabolic state that you're finding yourself in. Now, if you want to follow the world's ideas and the world's view concerning this particular chronic illness, you can, because the world is real good at keeping people living in a world of illusion, just denying reality and telling people how great they are. But again, you know, if you want to have a heart attack, kidney issues because of the chronic diseases, you want to start experiencing arthritis and gout and all the other problems associated with weight, feel free. But you don't have to. So those are the real issues. And why does this even matter from a standpoint of relationships? I'll tell you this. Many men, especially guys like me, I understand what's going on when I see all of this weight that women are carrying. And it sends a message to me that's very clear. I personally am not interested in a woman who's not interested in taking care of herself. For whatever the reason, I'm just not interested. Nor would I be in the other extreme with a woman that is too self-preoccupied. But I'm certainly not interested in a woman who's not interested in taking care of her basic health. Because I see if you can't take care of your basic health, there's a lot going on here. So that puts that woman in another category all by herself. And I don't personally want a woman to think that the reason why a man is not really interested in pursuing a relationship is just primarily because she's big. That's not the reason. The fact that she's big is not in and of itself the problem. The problem is that there is nothing being done about it. And it's accepted as a norm. It's like the new norm. And the average brother is not going to deal with a woman like that, because if she's got issues in that area, dealing with her own life, her own biology, then there's got to be some psychological, there's got to be some other issues. But it doesn't have to stay that way. There's things you can do if you're willing. That's my time. I thank you for yours. See you on the other side.